November is here and the trees are changing colors. Hi everyone, Kim here at Olive City Homestead. Welcome. So in today's video, I wanted to talk to you about becoming more self-reliant. You know, a lot of people talk about homesteading and a lot of people talk about hobby farms and getting off-grid, and all these terms get thrown around. One of them is self-sufficient. Yes, and I think a lot of us want to be self-sufficient. And a lot of us wish we could live off-grid, but for one reason or another, we can't, at least at this point. And you know, after really reading a lot and watching a lot of videos and really thinking about it, I think that it comes down to self-reliance. We want to be able to know that in the end, if we need to, we can count on ourselves to help ourselves and to help our family and maybe even a few friends. So what is self-reliance? Does it mean that we're completely independent and that the only person in the entire universe that can help us in any way is ourselves? No, that's not what it means. It means pretty much what self-sufficiency does too, in this way, that for the most part, we rely on ourselves. For the most part, we are self-sufficient. Now, I did a video a few weeks ago about what exactly is a homesteader, and I'll link that in the description and in the little info card above. But in that video, I talked about the definition of self-sufficiency, and technically what it means is someone who is providing for themselves and their family shelter and food, you know, a subsistence level type of providing. And based on that, I determined that I can do that for myself and even for my two teenage girls that still live with me. You know, if I needed to not be able to go to the store, could I provide enough food for them and for myself? Yes, I could actually. Self-reliance, I would say, is more the core characteristic that helps you become self-sufficient, helps you have a homestead. And here are 10 ways that I came up with that I am currently using to be more and more self-reliant every day. And I think pretty much anyone can do these things, and if you want to, and if you do, they are going to lead you down the path of becoming ever more self-reliant, ever more self-sufficient. It's not as if you do one of these things and you know, you get up one day and do it and then it's done and that's it. No, these are things that you go down through a process with them, and really I would say for most of them it's a never-ending process of improving and growing. But any bit that you do along these lines is going to help you become more self-reliant, which is a very satisfying and rewarding thing to become. Now, the first way you can become more self-reliant that is super easy and super useful. In fact, I would say, well, it's the reason I put it number one. It's pretty much at the top of the list. That's not to say the others aren't as important, but I think this is the one that most people who want to become more self-reliant should start first, and that is to grow perennial food. So we all want to start our veggie gardens, but here I'm talking about perennials. So perennials can be vegetables like artichokes, asparagus, tree kale, and they can be fruit trees. So I have 58 or 60, I lose count because I'm always adding more, fruit and nut trees at this moment. Not counting my 100 olive trees because I didn't plant those. And to be honest, I'm still experimenting with preserving the olives myself rather than just giving them away or selling them. But my fruit and nut trees, all between 2 and 4 years old, this year I've started getting pretty good harvest from a lot of them, and that's been wonderful. And another kind of perennial food would be berries. So another fruit, but not a tree. So you have blueberries, you have gomi berries, goji berries, you have gooseberries, raspberries, blackberries, and you know what? The list probably goes on and on from there. But these are a wonderful fruit to have growing all year round. Oh, how did I forget strawberries? Herbs are another perennial food. Now, we may not think of them as a food. They're a spice, perhaps you might say, but they provide for us year-round. Now, some of these perennial foods don't provide year-round. They just grow year-round, and they produce year after year. But herbs, a lot of them anyway, produce actually throughout the year, either if you're in a warm climate like I am outside, or you can bring them into a greenhouse, whether that's heated or non-heated, or a grow room in your home. This year, actually this winter coming up, I am going to be, I was going to say starting, but I've actually already started it, but I'm going to be further enhancing it and using it for the first time this winter, a grow room that I've started in my house. I converted it from a little cubbyhole room that one of my college age kids stayed in for a little while, and before that I had thought of setting it up as an office because it has a built-in desk, but now I've decided, you know, with that western facing window, it gets sun from noon on heavily. It's very intense sunlight, and I think that it would make a great grow room because other than that one window, it's really insulated. It used to be part of the garage, really thick walls. I'm going to try it out and see what happens. But perennial food, I cannot praise it enough. And my favorite of all my perennial foods, probably by next year I might say one of my fruit trees, but up till now I would definitely say it's purple tree kale. That is gorgeous and delicious year-round, and in the winter, oh, it takes off. It's so sweet and gets enormous, and it's super easy to take cuttings from and start new plants too. Look at how gorgeous that is. Now that we've had a little bit of cooler weather, and being translated that means about 80 degrees, down from the hundreds, the tree kale is turning more purple, and it is just delicious. I have been enjoying it so much the last few weeks. Oh, look at that liquid amber tree, as we call it, there in the background, changing color. Oh, so glorious, isn't it? I love the changing colors in November. But this purple tree kale, I'm loving these purple colors because it's just wonderful. Lemon tree is loaded. I've been harvesting it regularly and having fun with the lemons. But what I'm going to do pretty soon here in the next week or so, I'm going to harvest most of the lemons, and I'm going to freeze the lemon juice so I can use it all winter long. My artichokes are perking up now that the weather has been cooling down a little bit. Here's another one, and these produce little pups, which I'm going to dig up and spread around the garden. Now, the second way you can become more self-reliant that I highly suggest you start as soon as possible, wherever you're located, is to get some chickens or ducks. Chickens are a little easier if you're closer to the city, to the town. You can get just 2 or 3 hens in a backyard, and they'll produce enough eggs for you and a couple of kids. We're a vegetarian homestead, but eggs provide quite a wonderful source of protein for us year-round from our chickens and now our ducks. We've only had the ducks since March, and they've been laying since, or maybe we got them in February, but they've been laying since July, so they've added some more eggs to our refrigerator and to our diet. But the hens are 3 years old now and are finally slowing down their production. I'm going to be adding some more chicks in the spring to up our egg production again. But we have loved having chickens, and they're right over here. Let me show them to you. Going into the olive orchard. My olive orchard is divided into 2, and this is the, let's see, the south side. Come on, girls. Give them a little treat here. So, these are some of my hens. And hens are a super easy pet. We could think of them as pets. And they're lots of fun to have around, very entertaining, sweet, and just so easy to take care of. Really. Just, I can't even tell you how easy they are. I had no idea before I got them. I thought they'd be a lot more work, but they're totally not. And they're a lot of fun. And they just give us eggs, 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 which we love. Thank you, girls. What are you doing over there? You need to come get some corn. I so rarely give you that. It's very yummy. Come on. Well, for whatever reason, she's standing back. They're excited about it. Now, the next way you can become more self-reliant is to make your own. That's more of a principle because it's make your own food, make your own clothes, make your own household items, make your own luxuries, make your own animal food. And some of that might sound a bit overwhelming or intimidating, but it's really not. For instance, some of the food items that we eat regularly that I've learned to make are hummus and salsa. What else? Peanut butter and mayonnaise, sourdough bread, refried beans. My daughter can't have dairy, so I'm learning to make vegan cheese out of different nut milks. Really, there's so much you can make, and some of it you may say, well, that took a lot of work. I'm not sure I want to do that all the time. But at least you'll know you can do it. And a lot of it you'll discover, oh, I actually enjoy making that. I think I will make that more often or all the time and save yourself a lot of money. And we can almost always make it much healthier, having grown the items that go into these products ourselves. Other things I enjoy making are jams and luxury items. I mentioned those. I'm talking about things like frappuccinos. Hot mochas. These are all things you can learn to make yourself. The internet is wonderful for teaching you just about anything you want to know, including how to make a great espresso frap. Other luxury items you can learn to make on your own are soaps and candles. These are great items for your household that you can save money on and make in a healthier way, in a way that you really enjoy, a way that you find beautiful and satisfying. Now, as far as clothes go, I am not a sewer, although I have dabbled many years ago. But I actually think it's something I might take up again. But one way you can right now get into making things quickly is to take up crochet or knitting. If you haven't before, it's really simple to learn, and you can quickly start making things like hats and scarves and mittens. And then going back to sewing, there are simple things that even I could make, like tablecloths and curtains, things to make my house nicer, prettier, but not break the bank. When it comes to animal food, well, that's simple. That's just what you grow in your garden. Our animals, our chickens, our ducks, our sheep, they all enjoy all the leftovers, the things that maybe got burned in the sun, or a worm got to them, or a caterpillar, or whatever little bug got to them. The animals, the ducks, chickens, and sheep, they don't mind that at all. And so I have provide a lot of food for them from my own garden. And then one more thing I can make here on my own and become more self-reliant in doing so is fertilizer. I can make fertilizer for my trees, like this lemon tree here with coffee grounds and eggshells. I can make compost tea, which is a fertilizer for all of my vegetables and fruit trees, just from things like my collard leaves. When you put those in water, they break down very quickly, just a few days, into a wonderful tea that your vegetables and fruits will love. Now, the fourth way you can be more self-reliant is to preserve that food you've grown. So there are lots of ways to preserve, and you don't need to feel like you need to be able to do all of them. I started with just the easiest one, or at least for me it's the easiest, and that's freezing. And that works great for almost everything you might want to store for long term. So freezing is one. What are some others? Well, I moved on from freezing to pickling. Now, I never would have thought I would pickle, because I thought it was complicated, but it turns out it's really simple. But more than that, it turns out you can pickle almost any veggie. And I did not know that. I thought, like probably a lot of people, that pickling was just for cucumbers. But no, I have so far pickled all sorts of things, including, but not limited to, zucchini, okra, carrots, and what else? Radishes. Anyway, the sky's probably the limit with pickling, and we have loved that. It has been wonderful, and you can vary the flavors of your pickles quite easily. Sweet, of course, and dill, but all kinds of flavors using your own herbs. The third way that you can preserve that I moved into this year was drying. Yes, I've got a dehydrator, although I started just drying because I live in such a warm, dry climate, just drying naturally. And you can do that with a lot of things. And I started with doing oregano and basil that way, and it worked great. Then I got a dehydrator on sale, and I've been drying all kinds of things since then. One of the most recent projects I took on was drying pomegranate seeds After I had crushed them actually and gotten juice out of them and made some wonderful pomegranate spritzers, I took the seeds, which I hadn't crushed entirely. I wanted to leave a little bit of the flesh on them, a little bit of the juice in them, so that I could dry them to later use for tea. I'll link in a card above and in the description below to the video I did on the pomegranate spritzer project, which goes into how to cut a pomegranate and de-seed it easily, as well as how to make that spritzer. Now, the final way you can preserve foods, that one you probably hear the most about, and for me, it's definitely been the one that's the most intimidating, and I have not started doing it yet. Maybe I will soon, and that's canning. You know, I'm getting less and less intimidated about it because I'm reading about it more and more. And I don't mean in like a dry textbook, but actually I'm reading real experiences of women and men, I'm sure, just like me, who are canning their own goods. And when I hear them describe what they're doing and I actually watch videos of them doing it, it assures me that, like much of what I do, that other people say, how do you do that? Like shear a sheep. Once you learn how to do it, it's not so it's not so complicated as it first might seem. Well, look at all that. We've got some collard leaves that a worm got to. Some, you know, old kale that hadn't been harvested. There's really so much of everything in here. Eggshells. So what's happened is my regular compost pile, which is in the corner of my property, made with pallets, is in the stage where it's resting. I just finished loading it up about a month ago and covered it, and it's resting. So I started just throwing things in this empty metal crate or bin I had, which I actually intended to use as a raised bed soon. And I thought, well, I'll just throw them in here for now until I decide where I'm gonna put another compost pile. And then about 2 weeks ago, I said, you know what? Actually, why don't I just use this for a compost pile over the winter? So pretty soon, after I get the rest of my summer, I have a few more summer crops to pull out and get them in here. I'm going to cover this with some spent straw from my sheep, which has a little bit of their droppings in it too, and some chicken manure from hay, or it's actually pine shavings from my chicken coop. Put that in here, and then I'll cover it with a layer of soil, and I will leave it for the winter, because in the spring it will be beautiful soil and I will have my raised bed ready to go for me, and I won't have to put anything in it. When I thought of this idea, I did move aside some of the compost and put a few logs at the bottom, so it will be sort of like a hugelkultur raised bed, which I love to do hugelkultur because those logs at the bottom will break down really slowly over time and feed the soil. As this compost breaks down over the winter, it will attract worms. So I've already put through a few earthworms in here from other places in my property in the garden here. But also there are drainage holes on the side of this bin. Right down here is one, and there are a couple of those, and I'm going to add some more. And the earthworms, new ones, can also gravitate in through those drainage holes. But like I said, I already put some in there, and they will break down this material really quickly, and this material broken down will be the absolute perfect food for the soil. Some of the things in here, all different kinds of things, not just leaves. I've got twigs from okra plants, so they're all different types of things, and they will help build the soil structure as well, and the plants in the spring will love it. And then my other compost, which is in the in-ground pile, in the spring I'll be able to take it and put it on my different garden beds, and it will help the soil immensely for the new growing season. Now, the sixth way that you can become more self-reliant and, build your self-confidence, that is to start building your own infrastructure on your property. So if you do get a few hens, or if you get 20 like I did when I started 3 years ago, build your own coop. I mentioned that I'm going to be getting some new chicks in the spring, and I'm already looking at building a new chicken coop run for them because I don't want to put them straight in with my older chickens. I'm going to create a little run separate and a little chicken house separate for them, and then it's connected to the older chickens' large orchard range here. And so they all get to know each other through the wire fence, and then eventually I'll merge them. But already, I'll show you what I've got going on over here. Got the posts in the ground, cemented in. And it may be in a weird, what looks like a weird configuration, but I have it all planned. And then I'm going to connect it to that fence there, which is part of the ducks' extended run. But the two shall not meet. There is a fence separating them. It's going to be very simple now that the posts are in to put together the run, because I just need to nail up or staple to the post the hardware cloth and then their chicken coop. Well, you can do that at any style you want. If you go online, you can find all kinds of plans for that. In passing, why does this olive tree have a million suckers all over it? That's because I leave those suckers because my chickens love to go in there and hide under there and rest in the shade when it's 110 degrees outside. Now, this is the gate from the olive orchard chicken range into their extended run. And there's their coop there. And they have a little place under the coop they can go when it's raining, but they want to be outside. And, you know, that's just worked really well. However, when I build the new chicken coop for the young chicks, I'm going to put it on the ground. It's going to be a walk-in coop. I've liked this one. There's a lot of features about it I do really like, but now that I've had it for 3 years, I'm going to try something new. And that's something you can do when you build your own infrastructure. You can change things up and do things your own way. You can even put a play kitchen in your chicken run if your older children say, "But Mom, don't get rid of it. We like it. It brings back memories." Uh-huh. One of the next pieces of infrastructure, major infrastructure pieces that I'm going to be doing is a greenhouse. And I have put wire around my deck here, this old deck. Well, the reason I put the railing up is I'm adopting a dog soon. Sometime within the next year. I'm on the list. A golden retriever, a rescue dog. But I had to have my pool blocked off. And my pool's only half full because I'm getting rid of my pool and I'm letting the water evaporate. But even so, they wanted me to rail up the deck. Okay, I did that. And in doing that, I got this great idea that this is actually where I'm going to put my greenhouse. I'm actually going to make the deck the foundation of my greenhouse because it has actually a great foundation on stones under it already. It's really stable and secure, and it's recently been reinforced in the weak areas. So I'm going to actually build my greenhouse right there, and I'm going to be using old windows. And like I said a minute ago, that is one of the really cool things about our day and age, is that we can get on the internet and we can find out how to do anything, including build projects like a greenhouse for somebody like me who, you know, never touched a power tool until a few years ago. I've come a long way, and you can too. And these are our sheep, Toffee and Coco. They're enjoying some mulberry leaves right now. But usually they love eating, well, any kind of leaves are a special treat for them. They do a great job keeping all the suckers eaten off of these olive trees, though. They live here in my north orchard, and I don't have to come in here and do anything to the olive trees in the way of suckers, because they do me that very nice chore of eating all of the suckers, don't you, boys? So Coco and Toffee here are Shetland sheep wethers. They're 3 years old. They're really sweet boys. Aren't you, boys? Yeah. And they're my 17-year-old daughter's pets, actually. But they're very helpful to us, and they produce wool, which a lot of people love and value Shetland wool. So it's great for fiber arts, and if I wanted to, I could easily sell their wool, or I could use their wool to make my own fiber and sell the fiber, or I could make products with it, like a lot of people do. They make dryer balls out of wool that work fabulous. I use them myself, so they can be quite productive, but the main reason we have them is for pets. And then the byproduct that I absolutely love is that they take care of the suckers, because each of these olive trees can produce so many suckers, and it takes so long to prune them all, but I don't have to do that in this orchard. So yeah, sheep are easy animals, and some people keep sheep for milk, because there are a few breeds that are dairy, and then of course goats make great suppliers of milk too. And they also are great at weed control. Sheep and goats are really super easy animals to take care of, and fun, not expensive at all. I've had no problems with these sheep related to health, and the only thing I really have to do for them is each year I give them each a shot to prevent certain diseases, and shear them once a year. And they've been very healthy for 3 years, so not a difficult animal to take care of. So yes, chickens and ducks are easy animals. Sheep and goats are easy animals. Another one, though, that I think a lot of people overlook is cats. People know dogs are good. I don't happen to have a dog, though I will be getting one soon. But cats are great too. And here's what cats do. Cats help you deter gophers, mice, rats, even squirrels. Yeah, my cats love to camp out anywhere they smell there's been an opossum or a gopher or a rat or a mouse, and they will, take up guard there. So I think the cats have deterred those pests, those rodents and others, from coming in the backyard to my garden area. I do have some gophers and some squirrels because of the orchard behind me. The ground squirrels are nuts in there, and they come out into the orchard occasionally. And this spring, or rather summer, they did get up in a few of my apple trees and snitch some apples. But I learned to wrap the trunks with tulle, and that keeps the squirrels and rabbits away from the trunks and stops them from climbing. Not the rabbits, they don't climb, but the squirrels do. The tulle keeps them from doing that, but I just haven't seen any sign of any damage to my garden in the back from anything other than opossums, but they don't do too much damage. So yeah, I think cats really help in that way. So the 8th way you can become more self-reliant is to plant more flowers and herbs. And I say this because if you have flowers and herbs around your property, you will attract so many pollinators, bees and butterflies, hummingbirds. They'll become attracted to the colors and the smells, and they will flock to your garden. And what does that mean? It means you're going to end up with a lot more vegetables and fruit, for that matter. Fruit, they have their own blossoms, so they don't really need that extra help, but it can't hurt. But in your vegetable garden, it does help a lot to have extra flowers, extra color, extra smells to bring those pollinators in. Now, herbs are helpful in another way, well, actually several ways, in that we can use them for so many things other than just cooking. Of course, they're great in cooking. I mean, I love to use, my favorite herbs are basil and oregano, thyme and rosemary, and a lot of the lemon herbs, lemon verbena, lemon balm, and lemon, I'm making myself stop to think, what is the other one? Because I always do this. I can picture it. Lemon verbena, lemon balm, lemongrass. All of those make great tea and great flavoring in a lot of dishes. So that's true. And I have lots of other spices too. All kinds of mints and savory and my mind is blanking, but lots of just about any herb that you like to cook with, you can grow. But the other things that herbs are great for are medicinal purposes and teas. Oh, and aromatherapy. So you can go into any of these areas. Perhaps you already are into one of these areas and you're enjoying it and feeling it's beneficial to you. Well, you can start doing that on your own with your own herbs. Also, any herbs you grow are definitely going to be healthier for you. You know what's going into them. You can keep them completely organic, and they're just going to taste better. And also, they're going to save you a lot of money. Herbs are expensive in the stores, let alone organic herbs, and you're going to grow them, a lot of them year round. A lot of them are perennial. And you're going to save a lot of money having healthier, tastier herbs that you grew yourself. And they attract the pollinators. The other thing, though, that flowers and herbs do year-round based on their beauty and their aroma is they really boost our moods. They really, really help our mental health. And you can pick exactly the kind of flowers that most relax you and most soothe your soul, most energize you. And you know what? There are even flowers that are edible. Nasturtiums and marigolds, any flowers you grow, If you look it up, you probably will find most of them are edible, and you can throw them in your salads. And yeah, that's something I need to venture into because I haven't really done much of that. I have eaten nasturtium and I do like them, so why not try some more? One thing I've heard about for a long time that I've always wanted to do, but it's just not in my budget right now to set up, is solar panels. I do want to provide my own energy, but solar panels are a little bit in the future for me. So what can I do now to help myself produce my own energy? Well, one of the things I can do is right behind me here, and that is I can provide my own wood, which is a heat source for my house and my family. Now, this wood comes from my own trees. These olive trees here, every year I have to prune them. I have huge mulberry trees, non-fruiting and fruiting, that provide me with a ton of wood every year. And that wood ages for a year or two, and then it's great firewood. And that cuts down on my electric bill immensely because I use solely heat from my fireplace, or my wood burning stove rather, all winter. So yet another way that you can become more self-reliant is to sell a product. And I know at first you might think, I have no idea what I would sell. I just can't even imagine. Or maybe you have 100 ideas of things you might want to sell, but you have to narrow that down. At least at first, start with one or two things and see what happens. Now you can sell locally, or you can sell online, or you can do both. Just research it. So what kinds of things can you sell? Well, you can sell obvious things like eggs from your chickens and ducks. You can sell things you make from your garden and your orchard, like jams. You can sell actual fruit and veggies and herbs. You can take those things, even some of your flowers, say lavender, and you can package them in other ways, like lavender potpourri or rose potpourri, or lavender sachet bags for people to put in their clothes drawers. You can take things like your tomatoes and make salsa and sell that at farmers markets locally. So yeah, food and flowers, the possibilities are pretty endless. One of the things that I'm getting into is making my own teas with various fruits and flowers and herbs. And once I, experiment and I'm happy with a variety of those, I probably will start selling some of those online. So I have a website for my writing because I write historical fiction and poetry and a little nonfiction. And now I've decided to go ahead and start a website for Olive City Homestead with articles and videos that pertain to gardening and animals and living simply as I'm trying to do. But once I get that up and I've started producing some of these things or making some of these things like teas, I'll put them in a little shop on my website. That's how easy that can be. Now, what are some of the other things you can sell? Well, some people make candles. Some people are good at woodworking or teach themselves. As we know, we can learn anything we want to learn on YouTube or some of these other sites like Masterclass or Skillshare or Great Courses Plus. There's lots of things you can learn, knowledge, but also hands-on by watching others. I love all those places, and I think there's good things about all of those courses and all of those videos, but YouTube is really what I've learned to love the most because it just has the most variety, and it has people who are in a lot of ways more relatable to me. I don't feel as intimidated. I feel like, okay, if she can do it, I can learn to do it. Then I hope you feel the same way. If I can do something, you can certainly learn to do it. What are some of the other products you could sell? Well, related to food, some people keep bees and then you would have honey to sell, or perhaps you would make granola with some of the nuts you grow from your nut trees. Wool from your sheep, and you could sell dryer balls, or you could sell the wool for fiber artists. They would love that. You could dye it. I found a wonderful YouTube channel where this woman has a lot of sheep and she dyes their wool all different colors and creates fantastic projects out of those. That could be your route to success. Really, your imagination is the limit. And so therefore, you're basically not limited. Those of you who can sew, oh, you can offer so much in the way of products and patterns online. And speaking of patterns, that's a digital product, and that's a whole nother avenue of selling. You can create so much digitally, whether that be calendars or stationery or ebooks. And you can also create e-courses if there's something you know how to do. Let's say you're a master spoon maker out of olive wood. Well, please make a course so I can learn, because I have lots of olive wood and I'm learning about power tools. I guess maybe you probably don't use power tools for making olive spoons, would you? You probably use some sort of knife. Maybe not, but really people out there want to learn from people that are doing it themselves. So that can be a course you could make on just about anything. The final thing I want to leave you with, this bonus tip after having covered all 10 of those ways you can become more self-reliant. This bonus tip is simply that becoming more self-reliant and therefore more self-sufficient is really an attitude. It is you changing your perspective. It's you seeing things differently. I now look at things and I think, how can I use that differently? How can I repurpose it rather than just throw it away? I get more and more use out of things that I, not just everyone else, but I myself used to only get a little bit of use out of. I've learned to restore things. So not just reuse them, but restore them back to what they used to be or to something different, but similar and just, made more to my liking. I have an old 3-tier table. I call it my antique table, but I really don't know how old it is, but I know it was my dad's mother's. And then I know my mom had it when I was growing up. And when she passed, I got it. And it was a mess, this 3-tiered table. The wood was just such a mess. I really didn't think there was any saving it. And I put it in my storage unit for several years. But recently I pulled it out and I said, I want to reuse this. I want to restore it and make it useful and meaningful to me. And you know what? It turned out it really wasn't that hard. I followed a few online tips and now it looks great. And every time I look at it, I think, I did that. And I also think that was my mom's and that was my grandmother's. So it's a really good feeling when you do reuse something that way. The other thing is, besides reusing things over and over or repurposing them for some new use or restoring them to some better version of themselves, is to just be super creative and come up with entirely new things, invent things. And you'll think you can't do this perhaps, but when you start living in this way simply and you start thinking in this way of reusing and repurposing and such, these ideas will come to you. As perhaps that's how I came up with the idea of the greenhouse and using that deck that was already there, that was going to be of no use once the pool is gone, to make my foundation for my new greenhouse. I don't think I would have come up with that idea before. Well, now I think it took 3 years of homesteading and looking at things in a different way from a new perspective and saying, I know I can do this. How am I going to do this? Because I've been thinking about that greenhouse for over a year and a half, about where would I put it and what would I build it out of. And I've collected a few windows after I came up with the idea of using windows. But I kept changing my mind about where to put it and what kind of floor it was going to have. And so because I let that simmer and because I was open to new ideas and reusing things, I think that's why I was able to invent this idea of using a deck to be a walk-up greenhouse. So I guess that is my number one tip, my bonus tip, is to really think about having an open-minded, flexible perspective and seeing things through the eyes of the 3 R's: reuse, restore, repurpose, and be creative with your homestead. Be simple, but be creative and have fun with it. And you will, using some of these methods we talked about today and more that you'll come up with yourself, you will definitely become a more self-reliant and self-sufficient person. Thanks for joining me today. And if you would like more videos like this one and others, then hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and that way you'll know whenever I upload a new video, which usually is 2 or 3 times a week. My computer did crash this past week, and that's why there's only one this week, so I apologize for that. And also, you may have noticed that I have ended the video inside, and that's because it was getting too dark, and then I remembered why. because the time changed today, so it got dark earlier. So yes, live and learn. But yeah, this is my little corner. Someone asked me if this was in my grow room. No, this is my little writing corner. I'm sitting at my writing desk. My grow room, I'll show you another time though. But right now it's pretty bare. Well, over the next month, I should have a lot of seedlings growing in there and plants I bring in from outside, and then I'll show it to you. But its palette is more oranges than greens. So not my grow room, but yeah, even here I have signs of flowers because I love flowers, and probably you do too, I'm guessing, or you wouldn't be watching a gardening channel. So thank you for joining me today, and I will see you again real soon.